Okay, Robert, I'll just go through this again for you so you have a record of everything. Um, so, turbine engine. In here is your clutch. And if you spin this, you can move it and you'll eventually see that that notch is for a locking pin that comes out at about 75 or 80%. But then there's going to be another hole that comes up here. Slowly turn it right there. So in there, it's so hard to see, but you're going to see like a hex head bolt there. So that adjusts your clutch shoes. I've never had to do it because I've been careful with my clutch and I haven't had to push them out. But if you move those bolts, and you can rotate, there's 4 of these, so you rotate the inner part, you can adjust your clutch. So if it ever starts getting low, or if it's not catching at 62, 63, that's when you start making these adjustments on there. But again, I've never had to do it. But it's hard to see, but if you go a bit further, you'll be able to see like the clutch pad there. I can't see it on this video, but anyway, it's an inspection thing to take a look at, just to get used to taking a look on that on your pre-inspection. In here, this is the other upgrade that's happened. So really important piece that some people were having fail. It used to be a rubber coupling. We refer to this as the Hardy disc, and a group of guys got it replaced, and we've put a piece of aluminum CNC machined in there. The original coupling was designed for a piston engine with certain frequencies. Well, the turbine doesn't have those frequencies, so it's just been replaced with basically a bulletproof solid piece instead of this flimsy rubber thing. So that's one upgrade. Also in here, there have been some people that have had these bolts migrate over time and basically like wear out their insert in here. Well, actually, no, there's no insert. Just basically make the hole sloppy. Mine never had that issue, but the fix was to put steel bushings in here. So again, I didn't have an issue. I didn't have an issue with this thing either, but that's been replaced. We've put CNC steel bushings in there to make that impossible for those bolts to warp, and then that bolt eventually would break. Again, I've never had that issue, but safety first, put that upgrade in. And then obviously new gears in the gearbox, those are there. And then the U-joint, I would highly recommend, you always want to inspect these U-joints, okay? I had one issue with the U-joint here, and you catch it during inspection, and you just grab it, and if it starts getting play, it's the needle bearing starting to wear out. So the original one were these aluminum ones. Again, this one has no issue. This is an original. This was the same one as the original, but it developed, it just had a bit more play. So anyway, I replaced it with a more beefy one. In the tail rotor gearbox, there's another one of the originals just before the tail rotor gearbox. I would highly recommend when you get this, because it's going to travel 3,000 miles or whatever across the continent, this thing's going to bounce around, right? And you're going to want to really go through everything, and it will give you a chance to really get to know the ship. But I would change the oil, tighten up these connectors. I find I had a couple of them break when I transported mine across Canada, and they were leaking, and because there's kind of like these stems that are in there, and they can crack, right? So it may be something you want to look at. I mean, these are cheap. They're like, I don't know, maybe $8 or something, right? But you look at them when it gets shipped and make sure that they're all still one piece, because you don't want one of those breaking and, you know, shooting oil everywhere while you're flying. It'll be a mess. I mean, but you know, it's nothing like life or death. But again, just be careful of them, because they're gonna, when you transport it, you're gonna want to take a look and see if any of them, if you start seeing them leak, then you probably are starting to have a crack stem. That happened to me, and that will make more sense when you see how these are put together. These are chip detectors. So if any metal forms in the gearbox, it comes down to this magnet, and it goes on this, it will initiate a light on the dash, and the dash, you know, indicates. Here, these are all different gearboxes, from the main gearbox, the secondary gearbox, to the engine, to the tail rotor. As far as which one's which, I didn't label them because I have it actually labeled in the screen here. So let me flip this on and I'll show you what I'm talking about. You can label them. I've seen people put labels up here. I just, you know, don't like the look of it. You know, if one of these lights goes off, you know, it's going to go off down here as well. So you're going to know what it is. So what happens is, if I push this test circuit, what that does is it grounds all of those wires, and it will show you that they're all working. So there they are, all working. And you see how those yellow dots appeared? Off, on, okay? So if you see one of those go on, you know, one of those lights, you're going to see a yellow dot to the corresponding gearbox. So that's a tail rotor gearbox. That's the main rotor gearbox. C-box is that secondary gearbox that's just attached off of the clutch. And then engine, if there's a chip light there. So again, when you know, with this main rotor gearbox, you know, these gears are new, and what will happen with new gears is probably within the first 50 hours of them, you'll probably get a chip light. And what happens is you pull this off, and then you unscrew that, and on the end of the magnet you'll see what is like, it kind of looks like sludge, and it's just fine metal, like they call it fuzz, magnet fuzz, and you get that on new gearboxes when you break them in. So you may get one in the next you know, 20 hours. I think the box has got 15 or so on these new gears, maybe a bit more. So you'll probably, I'm gonna take a guess and say you get a chip light around the 40-50 mark. But again, I would change the oil. If you change the oil and clean off that magnet, then you may not ever get a chip light, because you'll be getting rid of the tiny little stuff every time you change the oil. Same here. Here's the other chip light for the C box, is what they call it, you know, secondary or C box. There's that one. You got the engine chip light right there, and you know, the oil in these things are they last forever. Like, this is not like a piston engine where it gets dirty and cruddy, but again, like, you know, probably you want to change this out right when you get it. Just go through everything and make sure that you just learn the ship and learn all the basics. You want to fly safe, and knowing your ship is really part of it. So again, I would just go ahead, change that oil, you know, change this oil. So this is the oil level line. So it's hard to see, but you can see the oil right there. So that's the mark. There's a flange there. So it's so weird. I'll send you the instructions for the KISS kit, but it shows you in a picture that, you know, that's the level that you want the oil in this box. So it's not too high or it gets slopped around, but you just want it, you know, in that level where it comes along that area. So you may want to mark that, but I've just become used to it. I know that it's always, you know, in between, you know, this part of the frame. It's got to lie in that area. This main rotor gearbox, the oil level, if I can get a light, let's see here. So that, you can't see it, but right in here, there'll be a line, that's the oil level in there. So you want it in between these 2 points. So that's that area. You probably noticed the back of this. This is like a fire coating, unfortunate, but the stuff chipped off with vibration. So I can send you what I put on here, and if it drives you nuts, you can put another coat there, fill in the areas that are that it came off on. Maybe you want to spray it and clean it up again. It was lower priority for me. Anyway, there's that. What else in here? Okay, so tension on the belt. So it's really about feel. So that I've got about that much play, and that's pretty much all I can go. I don't want it you don't want it too tight, and you don't want it too loose. Again, you'll get it. It shouldn't change. But when you get the ship, make sure you push on that and just feel what kind of tension I've got on there, and just remember it, right? And that's kind of what you want all the time. And then that's adjusted. You just loosen or tighten that bolt back there, and it changes this arm and loosens or tightens it. So again, play with it. When you get ship, understand how that works, so you know what's going on with that. You got the alternator belt. That's all good. What else do we got here? The engine, this is kind of where I hit the eject, but this is like beyond my level of comprehension. But I'm going to tell you one thing right now, and this is what you don't want to do. This arm right here, don't ever push down on this. I've heard so many guys, what happens is that arm is attached to this little pin here that goes into this fuel control unit. And this is a servo. So if you ever have to move this thing, you want to move it from here, right? Like that. But if you push down on that, it will break this thing apparently so easily. And the nightmare that will happen if you break this, and the rebuild for this whole fuel control unit is insane. Never happened to me. I've heard many guys have happened, and they come in here and they grab this and they pull up and down, and it breaks right away. It's like it's gone. So don't touch that. Here's a filter air breather for the engine. You could fill the oil up from there as well if you wanted. This is the side dipstick. So you turn this, and you know how dipstick works, and then you kind of have to work it. It's kind of got like a rubber grommet, so you kind of have to work it, and then you pull it out, and you'll see the lines there and how that all works. What else in this area here? Okay, so this here, another little thing that you may want to clean up. So this is, I had to add this after the fact. This is a rotor tack pickup for the MGL unit. The primary rotor tack pickup is this one, and there's magnets on here. And what it took me forever to discover is that the MGL unit does not like magnets that are unevenly spaced around here. So this works great for the backup gauge, but it doesn't work for the MGL. So I had to use one of these bolts, and this is called a gear tooth sensor, and wire this back to the MGL unit. And what I was trying to say at the beginning is, I just, I really wanted to see if this was going to work, so I quickly grabbed some metal, made a bracket for it, and put it on. Lo and behold, it works totally fine. The bracket doesn't look good, but it works fine as well. You may want to get something nicer, made there, and maybe get it painted. I don't know, but again, just a small little thing that you may want to just tighten up. And that orange thing over there is the ELT. I think it's got batteries in it. I think you'll learn that ELTs are a total joke in helicopters. They never go off. So it's more for show than anything, but it is a functioning one. And what else? Oh yeah, so that down there, that over there that's the oil pump. So what happens is that shaft, the rotor shaft, comes through the gearbox, through here, through this bearing, into this collar and into that. And so as the rotor turns, it turns the pump, which pumps all of the oil to all the gearboxes. Mine is designed so you can actually pull that. It's difficult, but you can pull that pump off as is. There are other ships where they've made this collar too long, and the only way to get that pump off to service it is to literally pull the whole rotor head assembly out. Okay, so that's that. And let's go up to the rotor head. So, oh, actually here, this is another key thing. Okay, so this here is called a thrust. This is called the thrust bearing. Okay, and what this is this collar here. You screw it so it pushes up on this thing, which pushes up on here, and there's a bearing in here. And what this is really doing is it's taking up the space between, the top bearing. They call it, what do they call that? Clamshell bearing, or the main bearing. This is called the thrust bearing. And mine's tight, but this is something you want to double check on pre-flight. So if you ever have to take the rotor head assembly out and do some major work, and you have to put this all back together, after every hour of your first flight putting it back together, you want to grab this and you want to push up, and if there's any play up and down here, you want to cut the locking wire. You can't really see it, there's locking wire here. Make this go up so it tightens that up and takes up that space. You want no play in here. Okay, as you can imagine, any play there means that you've got play between this gearbox and the top, and so you just want it always to be tight there. But once it's settled, I find it stays there. So I haven't had to touch this for a long time, and it shouldn't need to be adjusted, but you want to check it out. Okay, and then moving up here, so when you get the ship, you're going to the blades are going to be off. I'm going to remove them, and they're going to be, I don't know if you can see over there on the other side of that wing, there's a blade box. So all the blades are going to be in that blade box, and you've got basically one bolt that holds this whole thing together, and it's called the Jesus bolt. And there's these blocks in here. These blocks are labeled. I don't think you can see it, but it will say top, it will say S for slave blade or master blade, and you just have to make sure that they stay matched with the helicopter. You can't really mess up. I mean, there's labels there, and it's straightforward, but that will be off. In there's something called an elastic Merrick bearing. Every 8 years or so you have to replace those. Mine, I think, are about 4 years old, so you got some time left for sure. These are called aligner blocks. There's another small bearings in here, and I got a guest. One sec, Jeff. And then these are stainless steel, and so they've been upgraded, so they're great. They don't deform. And anyway, when you take the blades on and off, you just have to be really careful how you take the blades off, where you are going to break that bearing, and then you have to replace that bearing. It's like $100 bearing, but there's definitely a technique to taking and putting the blades back on. That's it for right now. I'll do another video, one sec.